Recording. And hi everyone, welcome to Tech Down Over. We are live, and in the center position of maximum power, we've got Ken Wheeler, our not so angry photographer. And you don't go by that anymore, do you?
No, I don't. I want to get the wrong impression.
You know, it's funny. I never found you angry on that show. You would actually, I found you funny more than angry, because usually you had a pretty. I think people don't get your sense of humor. That's part of the problem. When you make a joke, they're like, my God, did he just say that? Yeah. and they freak out. They just totally freak out for whatever reason. And, of course, all the zealots freak out about everything. He made fun of Sony. How could he do that? Anyway. And then Jeff Blanchard, our co-host, good friend, he's on the other side.
So it is.
So let's see. We got the intro queued up. And let's start the show recording in 3, 2, and 1. Hi everyone, welcome to Tech Down Over. It is Friday and we've got Ken Wheeler with us. He is joining us. He's, like I said before, he's the not so angry photographer, and he's a good guy. And then we've got Jeff Blanchard on the other side, our co-host, good friend. So hey, let's run our intro real quick. And we are back. Ken, you are becoming world famous. You're everywhere.
I deny that.
Hey, you had a thing with Jason Lanier when you guys were talking about the A9. Mm-hmm. That was actually sort of fun to watch. We've had Jason on the show. He seems like a really nice guy, and that's when you guys were sort of kind of going at it a little bit. But you know, I think you both sort of took the high ground, and it was when you guys met. I thought it was a really good show. You guys did a great job of. Like you guys were saying, let's just bring it up a notch and let's keep good feelings with everybody. And you had just done that A9 review, which was actually really interesting. I think a lot of people, like you said, were expecting you to bash Sony. And honestly, I've heard all your comments on Sony. I agree with literally everyone you've ever made. I've held Sonys. I've shot a little bit with them, and I find them. My hands don't fit on a Sony. I'm just big enough, so I'm like, it's not comfy. I don't know why people even like them. And you only get one card for professional video shooting. That's not good. But I guess you have an external monitor, which is twice as big as your camera, so that's good. I don't know. That was a good show. You guys did a really nice job on that show and talking it out and just everything. It looked like you had fun there. Look at the place you were shooting was interesting.
Oh yeah, the Kentucky Horse Park. Yeah, he brought a model. She came out from Tennessee.
Okay.
And, she first said, "Oh my God, I looked at you on Google last night, and you're the angry photographer. I don't know if I want to shake your hands." And I was really nice to her and said, "Okay, Tiffany." I posed like this, "Thank you, Tiffany." And she said, "Oh my God, you're not angry at all. I like you." And towards the end of the shoot, she was hanging off of my arm, which was kind of odd. I mean, nice or not, I'm ugly, so I don't know why anybody would hang off my arm. But I'm not angry. We had a good time and just walked around the Kentucky Horse Park and just did some simple stuff.
That's interesting. And then you went to that cool photo place you guys... you go there a lot, right? That photo shop? Camera store?
Yeah, too often, unfortunately.
Oh, look, a nice place. It looked fun.
Yeah, he brought a few cameras and a couple roto lights and just made a short little video. He called me a Sony hater in the video, and I don't actually hate Sony. I mean, I said I'd be fair to the camera, and I was.
Yeah,
you
were.
Some things about what I like, and I made sure that...
I thought you did a good review on it. It was just to the point, and you actually were surprised at one thing. I was actually surprised when you said that the camera didn't really heat up ever. And I know it's hot out there. You guys get humid and hot, and so it just ran fine.
Yeah, I tried to get it to overheat, and I shot under every form of bad lighting that I could. The only way I could get it to band was shooting nearly into the sun, outdoors. Just a few banding shots, but no artificial lighting could I get it to band. Not saying that it couldn't band under some variety of oddball artificial lighting, as Jared Poland apparently managed to do. But I still gave it a really poor rating as far as value. I mean, it has a 5 frame per second mechanical shutter, which is not good for sports action camera. If it bands under electronic shutter, then switch to mechanical shutter. But if that's the case, you've only got 5 frames per second, and In which case, I don't think a $4,500 camera should have a mechanical shutter by frame per second slower than a $500 Fuji X-T1, for example.
Yeah, well, you know what? I've got the Canon DS5 DSR, and that's got about 5-6 frames a second, and that was $4,500. And I go, okay. And they're charging for the sensor, really. That's it. And I don't know. I don't think it costs that much, but that's cool. Canon likes to overcharge anyway. They tend not to be cheap. They just hit you for the name. And I'm not always sure you get great new technology. When I first got the 5 DSR, I wanted something that was like the 5D Mark III, which I never had. And I figured I've got a lot of the lenses. I like the Canon menus. I like the way the system works. The lenses are good. It's been good. And I like the camera. I almost sold it. After about a month, I said, you know what? I'm not gonna use it for what it's really for. And I almost sold it. But then I started playing with it a little bit, and I go, you know, this thing shoots nice pictures. It really does. It doesn't have all the features of some of the newer cameras in terms of really high dynamic range or anything, but it still looks damn good. When you zoom into the deepest pixels, you go, you know, that's really good detail. It's clean. Slow as molasses, but that's okay. And yet, I told you earlier in video mode, it actually shoots nice, clean, focused video. I've gotten more compliments on an interview we did with a friend of ours who runs a restaurant right about 2 blocks from us about the video quality of that one over any other show we've ever done. And it's interesting. That's the only one we used, the 5 DSR, and it just looks clean. You can see every detail as he was sweating profusely, nervous under the camera. And you could see it all. I was going, oh God, not the good lens for this one. But it's a good camera for what it does. Hey, tell me a little bit about your GFX. That's about what, 6,500? That's more expensive.
Yeah, and the tilt shift adapter is another 600, and the vertical grip's another 500. So then it becomes immediately
you're at $8,000.
Immediately 7,500, and of course the lenses are not cheap. Both of those really are necessities. At least the tilt adapter is for the viewfinder. It makes the camera unbelievably more so usable.
Now, does it differ from, like, let's say an X-T2 in terms of controls? Are they totally different? Or?
It's really the same. I should have brought the camera out for you to see. It uses the same. Actually, anybody that's familiar with an X-T2 will find it to be about 90%. It's identical. Okay. It uses the same sensor as the Mamiya Leaf and the Pentax Z. However, it has a different micro lens design for improved SNR, signal-to-noise ratio. Fujifilm designed that. It is slow, but I'm very familiar with medium format, and there's nothing fast that's meant to be used in any form of medium format. But
the picture quality,
it's a very easy to use camera.
And the pictures you've taken, the quality looks beautiful. It's really nice. Now, what do you use it for? Because you said you're really not a landscape guy in portraits.
No, medical products.
Okay.
Product photography, tabletop.
That makes
catalog
sense.
Stuff. I'm not a portrait photographer. No, definitely not. I mean, that's very glamorous and nice. I mean, they shoot beautiful women all day long, but.
I was thinking you were just going to shoot old ugly guys. Come on, not beautiful. Old ugly guys. That's where the money is.
Yeah, old ugly guys. My friend Benjamin Canarac, he said it's okay for me to mention this. He's a top supermodel photographer in the world. He called me today twice. He's been calling me regularly for quite some time now. He's a wonderful guy. Lives in Paris, France. He's a native Canadian, and I always wonder what a supermodel photographer makes. He shoots covers for Elle, Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and other magazines, including Asian Vogue. I think it's called Asia Vogue or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's $25,000 a day, and that doesn't include makeup and wardrobe. So that must be a really nice job.
Well, I've actually known in my life 2 photographers who shot for Playboy, Hustler, and those kind of magazines. They made about $350,000 a year.
Oh.
Not bad. I don't know how often.
It doesn't work all year long, but you don't have to. There's seasons, he's told me.
Yeah.
He's the one that actually talked me into buying this lens, which will be the next one for review, which is the Nikon 85mm f1.2. I would adapt it right now to Fuji, but it's a Nikon mount. He talked me into getting it. He showed me some test samples that he had, and that's why he called me today.
Now, is that like a typical Nikon or Canon lens? Is it heavy?
It's extremely heavy. It's only $800. Actually, the focus and the aperture on it are incredibly smooth. It does not come with this lens set. This is a Nikon lens set, and it's a Metabones adapter for it. But
it looks beautiful.
$800, even an f1.2. Peak focus speaking. I've got really good skills with manual focus lenses, and have since photography school over 23 some years ago. But at 1.2 on any Nikon, this lens becomes, spray and pray as far as hitting your focus. And even he himself, world famous supermodel photographer, has the lens, and he said that's exactly right.
Huh.
And, that's the reason why he hasn't used the lens for any shoots that he has, because the limited time of the model, limited time of the wardrobe, he just can't be missing those shots. He said he would like to use it for that in some things, but
and this is Nikon's 100-year anniversary.
Yeah, in 4 days from now.
They're going to announce something, right?
Yeah, they are. They've also added information that a powwow has occurred between the Nikon higher-ups and some of their minions directly underneath them, whatever their designation may be, obviously for the release of the Nikon D820 here on the announcement on the 25th.
So you think the 820 is going to be, you were saying you think it's going to be a D500 full frame?
D5, not the sensor, it'll be 42 megapixels. It'll be basically a full-frame version of the Nikon D500. I know it'll have the dual processor autofocus engine of the Nikon D5.
That sounds cool.
It'll have incredibly good high ISO performance. It will have a worse dynamic range. It should be the Sony A7R2 sensor, probably with different micro lens design, obviously different SNR firmware, different 80 converters, much more improved over that of Sony. But it will have less dynamic range than the Nikon D810, for example. But people won't really complain about that because the buffer will be so incredibly high, and the high ISO performance will be so great, and autofocus will be so great. I'm assuming between $300 and $3,500 that people won't complain about the slightly reduced dynamic range.
That's not too bad. That's not too bad, especially with the speed and performance. Because I had the old A10 about a year and a half ago. It was nice, but it was slow. It was definitely not a fast one. Now, and it's funny, I had the D750. I had two D750s. I sold them both. I had no problems. They weren't the ones that got recalled. Everything worked fine on them.
They would have been.
They might have been, yeah.
No, they've recalled the rest of them now.
Yeah, it's just a shame, but it ran beautifully. I thought they recalled the second batch that they made.
And they've just recalled the third batch now.
A third?
From the 2016 ones.
That's a shame. That camera, I actually really liked the D750. It almost kept me in the Nikon line and investing more in Nikon. Nice. But then I said, I got so many lines, I can't take it anymore. I need to focus on two. But I did like it. It felt really good in the hand. I took it shooting in New York when I was visiting. My God, the pictures it took of the buildings and just, it was so sharp, so clean. The lines were, everything was clean on that. So maybe they had some problems, but I was lucky. I didn't have any of those problems. And the quality of the shots were some of the best I've ever taken in my life. And the camera just seemed to shoot well. And it felt good. It felt good in the hand.
On the D750. The serious issue, and I've heard from a lot of people that have sent their D750 back for an error message within the past 5 or 6 months that were not listed under recall, and they're extremely upset that they paid Nikon between $300 to $400 some to have their shutter mic replaced, and now they issue the recall. They feel like they paid for something that they should have not had to pay for.
Yeah, that's not good. But
I still remember that my favourite thing that got me interested in the D750 was Ken's video in his basement. I think that was quite a decent video showing the low light performance, and I was really impressed with that, going down into the basement to do the filming on that. That really got me interested.
Was that the 750? That was you did that with the 750?
Yes.
That's high class video work right there.
Yeah,
that's right. But then again, it's just like you say, it's not what you're filming, it's the content, the person behind the camera, the commentary and that, and what you're showing off as well. So it really did show off the things you wanted it to, because some of the times you see a lot of demonstrations if it's just on just normal scenes that you can't see a damn difference, whereas that basement shot was definitely a good way to see the performance of the camera as well.
It's an incredible camera so far as the output. It remains to be so. It's just everything peripheral to it. It's kind of like I don't know. It's kind of like a beautiful house that's just loaded with termites and other things, and there's toxic waste in the backyard, and oh my God.
Oh man, I feel so bad because I sold them on eBay to two different people, and they were really happy. I was pretty happy with the camera too, and again, I knew about the first recall, but my numbers weren't in there, and I hope they had no problems with them afterwards, but I haven't heard anything back. That was like over a year ago I sold them. But I liked it. I liked the 750, and the 810 did take gorgeous pictures. It really did. So from that point of view, I did like it. And the menus on the Nikon weren't bad. They were pretty easy to navigate versus like Sony or some of the other ones, which I find kind of convoluted. I don't even like the Panasonic menus that much. They're okay. They're not great. I still think Canon probably has the easiest menus, but in terms of ease of use and quick. And Fuji's not too bad. They have a lot of options, but they're not too bad.
The X-T2 is incredibly complicated. I get tons of tech support questions.
Yeah.
I think I've become unofficial Fujifilm tech support.
You probably have. One thing I didn't like about the Fuji X-T2, I still have both my X-T2s, but I never did sell them. One thing I didn't like, though, on the menus, bad eyes. Bad eyes. They're so freaking small. And they did everything in uppercase, so it's even harder to read. It's like, oh, I don't get it. Why didn't they change the case? I think it would have been easier to read. That's my probably biggest gripe about their menus. It was just, to me, hard to read. But they're fast. They don't drag. I mean, I played with some of the Sony ones, and they're like painting and painting and painting. It's slow. They're just not that fast. I don't know why. Menus should be quick, but it's nice. And the X-T2 does take really beautiful pictures. I've been... In that point of view, that's why I haven't really sold them yet. I was really thinking I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell it. And every time I pick them up, I love them again. I said, no, I'm going to get rid of them. No, I like the pictures. So, yeah.
I'll just get rid of one, Rick. That will ease your conscience.
That may be a good idea, because I can't shoot both at the same time. So
because you keep the Canon 5 DSR and the Fuji, but just keep them, because you'll go back to them.
I do. I do enjoy it. It's a nice camera. Even video looks nice on it. Ken was talking that they're going to be announcing a full video camera, like the X-T2. It's the X-T2 basically for video, so it'll be a probably good solid competitor for the GH5. So that would be interesting to see.
The intermediate between the X-T2 and the X-T3, it's brilliant on their end because they don't have to change much on the X-T2 as far as complete redesign. Include an IBIS Mac and some menus and some S-Log out, and they can use currently the two lenses that should be pre-prepared for the intermediate XTS, which is apparently supposed to be called, to cover the circular projection for the moving, or what I call the dancing sensor, is the 16 to 55 2.8 and the 50 to 140. Mm-hmm. Those are not only linear motors, but also incredibly quiet. People appreciate the fact that they're quiet on the X-T2, but Fujifilm already had the intermediate camera planned in advance, so they only have the two current cine lenses, which are for Sony mount, which they can immediately make and probably already are made for the Fuji mount for release, but the two current lenses that they have for the X-T2, which is the 16-55 and a 50 to 140, for use with the X-T2S or whatever they're going to designate it as. So it could be a pro video option that can actually capture a large portion of that market, since I don't know of any other competition. I mean, is Sony their competition or only Panasonic?
I think Panasonic is their closer competition in the Micro Four Thirds world. I think that maybe Olympus, but Olympus I think is actually behind Fuji in what they're doing. And then Panasonic just leapfrogged everybody on the video again. But that's on the video. There's still a good camera, but it's not... It doesn't have everything that some of the other cameras have, but on video, wow, it's pretty good. They did a great job on it. Their focus is still not the best. I'm not that crazy pleased with the Panasonic focus. It's okay. It's not the best I've had. I think Sony might be better. The Fuji's got pretty good focus. It's pretty neat. Now, I know you like the Fuji lenses, and this is the first time I've ever had a Fuji lens when I got the X-T2s, and I have to admit they're quiet, they're fast, and they just seem to let a lot of light in, and they're very clean, light lenses. They're not heavy. How would you compare your Fuji lenses to, let's say, your Nikon or Canon lenses?
Which, as far as noise is concerned?
Noise and yeah, what's your final quality is, aside from sensors being different? They seem really clean, really sharp. A lot of light comes in. I didn't really notice any distortion. Everything looked clean.
I have all the Fuji lenses except for the one lens that they have, which Fuji basically has admitted as a bad lens, which is the 18 millimeter. They're redesigning a second version of that. There's two different breeds of Fuji lenses as far as noise and speed. A lot of them are noisy, like the 35-1.4 is incredibly slow and noisy. It uses a stepper motor, also additionally so. The the 14 millimeter 2.8, and the pancake lens 27 millimeter 2.8 is very sharp, but it's very, very extremely slow and noisy, including even on the XT2. The fast lenses, which actually use linear motors, which are basically on rails, whether it's double or triple or quadruple linear motors that are slow and fast, are like the 16 to 55 2.8, the new 50 to 140 2.8, and their 100 to 400 millimeter lens. The newer lenses. Well, the smaller f2s are stepper motors as well. They're noisy, but they're fast. The 50mm f2, 35mm f2, and 23mm f2.
Yeah.
So they have two different breeds. The older, and some of the lenses actually have to be designed with stepper motors, including like the 10 to 24 wide-angle zoom, and some of the other Fuji lenses. Should bring up the Fuji film roadmap in front of me.
And I feel stupid right now. I'm trying to remember. I got one of their primes. Is it 85mm? Oh gosh, or was it a 60mm? I'm drawing a blank on what it was right
60mm is really noisy. 60mm 2.4, you mean?
No, this was a 1 point something, 1.4 or 1.2. I can't remember. It was either 1.2 or 1.4. It was a prime. I want to say it was a 65 or 85 millimeter.
60mm 2.4. The 80mm is coming out this October. The macro lens.
Yeah, this was a 1 point. It was either 1.4 or 1.2. It's nice. It's really clean, very quiet.
The fastest lenses are 90mm f2. That's a quad linear autofocus motor lens, the 90mm f2 prime. The slow lenses that use stepper motors, like the 16mm 1.4, 23mm 1.4, 35 1.4, 56 1.2 that also uses the stepper motor. 56 1.2,
that's one I got.
That's it.
It's nice. It's a nice lens though. The picture quality is beautiful. I was pretty pleased with it. I think that's why I kept thinking with crop factor. I think it's like an 80 or 85, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
The test samples. The reason they make it so fast is to get it to look. Now the compression remains the same at 56, so it's 56. But to get the bokeh to look the same as an 85mm f1.8, you actually have to shoot the 56 at 1.4. I've got side-by-side samples.
But that's a nice lens. Do you like that one?
I do. It's expensive, but there are better options that exist, like the Voigtlander 58mm f1.4, and it's a manual focus lens, but you slap that on an adapter and you get the most beautiful rendering and most beautiful bokeh imaginable. And it's a lens that will last many, many lifetimes. It's a Rolls Royce of lenses.
Well, you've been showing off a lot of the radioactive lenses, and I never knew back in those days that they were doing that. And my dad had those lenses, some of them, and he was really into Nikon and mostly Nikon. But I know he had some of those lenses. I was going, I don't think he ever knew. They didn't talk about it being radioactive either, did they? No. It's like, hey,
eBay
look.
eBay shouldn't be selling those too. There's tons of them on eBay. And basically, any of the old Rokinon, Yashinon, the Takamar 51.4s, all of those, the yellowish brownish look, they're thorium dope. Usually it's 3 to 4 elements. It depends on the lens, not the front element, but the rear 3 to 4 elements. And there's a lot of misinformation on the web saying, oh, well, it's just emitting alpha radiation, which is no big deal. Stop by a sheet of paper, but they're not. The Geiger counter that I have doesn't even detect alpha radiation. It only detects beta and gamma radiation. I did make a video, and I said, if it's only emitting alpha radiation, watch this. I put the lens down, I stacked 3 other cameras on top of the back of that lens, and I put the Geiger counter on the top of the third camera, and it's still just screaming hot. It's shooting out beta and gamma radiation.
Yeah. Now, what does it do to you? I mean, do you think it's actually affecting you at all, or is it pretty harmless at this point?
Try not to stare in the belly of the beast too long.
Yeah.
I'm also worried about sensor damage or CPU damage. That's the only reason I mount those only in the XT1. I don't want to destroy my XT2. Okay, so it could actually cause damage to the sensor? Oh, absolutely. Those are obviously only designed for film. I mean, your sensor is moving, every few seconds, unless you, of course, you leave the piece of film sitting behind there, which there have been cases where it will fog the film for obvious reasons. But but they're amazing. They're amazing, and what you've shown of shots of those, it's I don't know why do you think? I know you know the answer. I don't. Maybe Jeff knows. Why have they gone to lenses that have so many damn elements to them? I mean, it just seems. Like you said, plain physics. The more you have, the more you're actually blocking light rather than letting light in, even though they have all these lenses or elements to let more light in after they take it out. It's just sort of weird.
why so many lenses? Why don't we go back to the 3 and 4 element lenses that just had beautiful pictures?
I thought Jeff was going to talk first.
I said no. Rick said maybe Jeff would know. I said I would have no idea. But my thing is probably that people out there, they like buying things that've got more. If you say it's got more lenses and more glass in it than anything else, I'll think it's better. It's like everything else out there.
More and bigger is better, right?
Well, I mean, like the new OLED TVs with, and they're saying the brighter and better, but the first thing most people do is turn the brightness down, but the brighter, so that's one of the point, it's brighter than this model, but because one other brand's got it brighter and that, so it's just one of these things. I'm not too technical in there, I leave all that to, I get my reference from, and believe people like Ken when I look at things like that, so you've got a good job to do there, Ken. Keep me educated, because I'm not like you and Rick. I get lost a bit with my lenses. I just believe what you two tell me.
I did make a chart for that, and the prime lenses have gone to the point of, it used to be, why do you buy a prime lens? And if you ask that to any photographer, including some of the best photographers in the world, and I've asked them that just casually, and, they kind of stutter a bit. They know that produces the best image. It's like, well, why does it produce the best image? Why would you buy a prime lens over the same focal as covered in the zoom? And then, of course, the question becomes, well, why would you buy some of these modern lenses, like the Zeiss Otis? I mean, these $5,000-$6,000 lenses. They're incredibly sharp, but they're very dead and lifeless in how they render the image. They have no micro contrast. And I've had some people ask me, they said, I've seen Henri Cartier-Bressant's pictures from this, 60-year-old lens, and these black and white images look like they're about ready to jump off the page. I know he's a master photographer, but how on earth can... I can't, under the best circumstances, make any of my images look this good in black and white. I said, what are you shooting? Well, this so-and-so lens, a 16-element prime lens. Well, that's the reason why. The reason they're made that way is because the lens manufacturers have caved to the demands for extreme correction for chromatic aberration, vignetting, and ultimately about corner-to-corner sharpness that these people demand. They want absolute consistency, where you'd actually go out and buy a filet mignon, and it might have too much fat, that might not have enough fat. They send everything through a grinder, and they turn everything into a hyper-consistent hamburger, and it has absolutely no character at all. So you end up with a prime lens that's incredibly sharp, but it has all the characteristics of a zoom lens, and it has absolutely no flavor, it has no je ne sais quoi.
That's a really good point, because you're right. I remember some of the older pictures, the black and whites, they almost had a 3D quality to them. It's just, they're beautiful. They really are beautiful. And you're right, it has to do with the micro contrast, just the way things are. Well, okay, we live in a world where flat design is everything right now. And to me, flat design is as soulless as you could get. It's just like there's no life to it. It's just, ugh. There is some good.
That lens that I just acquired, I did a video review on the Optic Gerlitz True-Plan. It's only got 3 lens elements in it. It is not a sharp lens. It's like, well, why on earth was there a Kickstarter campaign to Optic Gerlitz to recreate that lens? And they got an enormous amount of money, overnight, just like that. Why would somebody want this 100-year-old lens recreated? I mean, it's not sharp, chromatic. You get even kind of close to a light source, it'll just flare right like crazy. All of it, just horrible.
Yeah.
And the answer is just the way it actually renders the image. Not only the soap bubble bokeh, but things look absolutely different through the lens.
Well, the other thing is, I don't really get also, why do people hate flare so much? Flare could be beautiful. I mean, it could ruin a picture, but it could also make it beautiful. And it seems like nobody wants a shot with flare. So they'll go into Photoshop and put flare effects in. It's like, what? I mean, that's so stupid. I'd rather have my lens do it and just have the beauty of just... I don't use After Effects. I'm not After Effects. Lightroom very much. What I take is what I take. And sometimes I'll fix it, but not often. And more often I'd like to see that's what it looks like. And that's kind of cool. And if you can do that with the camera without fixing it, then what's wrong with that? I don't mind Lightroom, but I don't think you have to use it or need to use it. But the flare thing gets me.
Micro contrast in Photoshop or Lightroom, no matter how skilled you are.
True, that's true. Hey, by the way, ever since you started talking about micro contrast, I have heard that term on more podcasts now than I ever had before. In fact, I never heard that term before. So I think you're getting through to people.
We've been calling it by other names for ages now. Some people accuse me of inventing that, pulling it like a rabbit out of the hat. I invented that. It's like, no, they've been calling it Zeiss Pop and other things now for decades before I was even born.
Yeah, but micro contrast is a term that's been out there forever, and but nobody uses it. And you started using it, and all of a sudden I've heard so many other people just bring up, wait, no, that lens has great micro contrast. I start laughing and go, gee, did that just happen? Or so.
People forget that glass is not only a capacitor. It's an insulator. Light is an electrical circuit. I mean, everything in the entire universe is capacitance, resistance, permeability, permittivity.
Yeah.
You change the nature of light by, sending it through so much bloody glass. It's like, well, I know I want it sharp, and I know I want, as little chromatic aberration as possible, and I don't want a lot of vignetting, but there comes a point in time where you just say, hey, let the ribeye be. Don't send it through the grinder and try to make, hyper-consistent. But we end up with spam. It's like you can buy a 50-millimeter can of spam, a 28-millimeter can of spam. Oh, wait, we now have the 28 to 200-millimeter can. Why would you buy a $3,000 prime lens with, 14 elements? And it's like, well, it's incredibly sharp. But why? It renders the exact same as a zoom lens. Mm-hmm. Why would you?
Isn't it interesting?
Because you can.
Because you can. It's big and it looks good. Yeah.
It's just like somebody who's been in prison for so long, they think like the meatloaf on Sunday is awesome. It's like, well, you've been in prison most of your life. You've never been to like a really nice restaurant, have you? I mean, they haven't really experienced a good lens. I mean, that Voigtlander 58mm that I recommended, Voigtlander should send me a limo or something. I made him so much money, sold some of the lenses. Everybody's just like, oh my God, I didn't know what a real lens was. And, this fat tattooed idiot, keeps recommending this lens, and everybody that bought it just loves it, and they buy it, and they say, wow, I didn't know images could look like that.
It's interesting. Yeah, Voigtlander's nice. I've never had one. I want to get one. That's one of the lenses on my list of, gotta buy at least one. Maybe I'll buy a used one to start, but because I've seen some great prices for them. They're not that expensive.
No, it's really cheap. I mean, it's made like a Rolls Royce, and it's a tank. That is a manual focus lens, and a lot of people hate manual focus, and that's understandable and fine.
Well, I have bad eyes, so I'm not sure how I do with it. But with focus peaking and stuff, you can it looks pretty sharp, so you can get it pretty clean. But I've seen pictures from the Voigtlanders and go, oh my God, they're gorgeous. It really is amazing. Like they're 50 millimeter. I think I saw one of their 50 millimeters. It was just so pretty. It's nice. And what are they? $500 lenses? They're not that expensive.
You can use for like $400 on eBay.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Now, Ken, do you think it had any? Do you think your comments about Lexa had anything to do with them disappearing?
I thought that for only like a half a millisecond, but I knew that obviously forces infinitely more powerful than myself are responsible for that. I guess SanDisk was just whipping her fanny, I suppose. I don't know what the totality of the reasoning was.
Yeah, it's sort of weird.
They're the only people making CFast card. What on earth is Canon going to do now?
Well, no, you know what? Somebody else makes a good CFast card, and they're not even known. It's called Delkin. D-E-L. They make.
So nobody else really makes them now.
No, other than that, no. But you know what? Those Delkin cards, I've got a couple of the CFast cards from them. They're rock solid. They work like a champ, and they're really good, and they're half the price of everybody else.
I guess SanDisk might buy that division or something. I
don't know. Delkin's been around a long time, but they're not a famous company. They're on Amazon a lot. And they make other cards, but their CFast cards for $200 are the equivalent of the $400 or $500 everywhere else. And I've never had one go bad on me so far. I've had one now for over 2 years. It runs perfectly. It just runs. It's clean. The only thing I'm going to miss is I don't know why I like them. They're not that well built, but they're convenient. I like the readers that Lexmark puts out. They've got like the double SD card and CFast and compact flash readers. They have a CFast reader that's really good. They're not bad. They're clean and they work consistent. I have not had one break on me in 3 years already. So that I'll miss because I don't know how long they'll last. They'll probably break as soon as I say that. But they're good readers, and I was actually shocked. I mean, why they're getting out? I don't know. I don't think they have any real bad competition there. SanDisk gets everything, and I keep thinking SanDisk is owned by, who is it, Western Digital or something?
Yeah.
And I was like, Western Digital is not exactly Class City. It's like,
no,
and by the way, I know you've said you would only buy SanDisk ones. They're the only cards I've ever had on shoots that went bad on me.
Really?
Two of them literally broken, and I was going, what? I treat my stuff really carefully, and they were just bad. They couldn't give back what was taken. I was going, oh man.
You got them on eBay, they're counterfeit.
No, they were the real ones. No, I got them real sources. Actually, I got them from a camera store, Sammy's, which is pretty reputable. They're the only two I've ever had that were bad. I've had more. They've been okay, but nothing's ever broken except those two SanDiscs, and of course those were on shoots. I was like, oh God, why these? And I had, guess what? I had them both on the camcorder. It was a camcorder, and both went bad. Those were the same two in one fell swoop. I went, no. So we lost everything on that one. That was a rare
redundancy.
Yeah, that was a redundant. They were unredundant, one copy to the other, and we lost both. I was going, oh God, that sucks. That's like worst case scenario. We had it. It doesn't happen often, but boy, that time was painful.
Now, Ken, you've just unboxed a lens. Was that the lens you were showing us just before?
Oh yeah, the Nikon D750 85mm f1.2.
Yeah.
There you go. Incredibly heavy.
Chinese stands for Chinese stands for dumb white guy. You know that, right?
I don't know. This lens is actually remarkable. It performs better than my Zeiss does at 1.4 as far as chromatic aberration, sharpness, and micro contrast. I've tested it now on 3 different cameras. The manual focus and the aperture focus, not aperture, excuse me, the aperture rings are just smooth as silk.
And that's a Nikon mount?
That's a Nikon mount, yeah, okay. But I won't be using it for Nikon because even though I've got mad manual focus skills, at 1.4 and 1.2 on this lens, it's an exercise in frustration to manual focus with it. On the XT2, it's 100 out of 100 as far as nailing the focus.
Oh, so you put that on the XT2 as well?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's on the XT2 now. That's where I'm going to keep it at 127mm f1.2 equivalent. I mean, it's perfect for headshot, perfect for everything.
Huh.
If Fuji announced what Fuji shooters, and I hate to say that I don't know, they kind of comprise an amateur market of shooters as opposed to like hardcore Nikon folks. But what they don't realize is if Fuji said tomorrow that, hey, here at Fuji we're going to introduce an 85mm f1.2 lens at the end of this year, but it's going to be manual focus only, people would line up to buy the thing. But when I mention this, I say, you just slap on a $10 adapter, they kind of go, eh.
Hey, speaking of adapters, what adapter do you recommend? Can you put Canon lens on the Fuji?
I have not done that. I know you can, but
okay.
Some of the don't they have the same indexing tabs? No, not this particular type of adapter. The one that has the indexing tab for moving the aperture. I've not used that one, so I don't know on that. Which particular breed of glass can adapt to the Fuji.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not sure because I have the Metabones on the GH4 and 5, which can read. It's funny, it doesn't read on all cameras equally the same. Some it works and some it doesn't. I don't know why. But the Metabones does a good job of using the Canon lenses with the GH4 and 5 on Panasonic. I haven't tried any adapters yet on the Fuji. Any you recommend though that quality in terms of brand? Because I heard the story of the one who had just destroyed a camera. I was like, ooh, scared. Maybe don't want to do this.
That, the Photo Diox?
Yeah, that fun. I have a Photo Diox for the OGH4. I never got it to work. It never worked. It just couldn't do anything with those Canon lenses. So I never got another Photo Diox, but they make a lot of converters. I just wasn't sure on the Fuji what to get.
Yeah, Photo Diox is the only company that just downright insulted me, and I talked to the head honcho there. I wasn't looking for anything for free. I just wanted to ask him a couple questions, and he gave me the brush off in not too short order, and it's a long story I won't get into on that one.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
Canon.
Yeah. So what adapter are you using?
K&F adapters, excuse me.
Which ones?
K&F adapter, for $20. Okay. Yeah, for Nikon to Fuji X mount, also for Canon.
Okay.
But I forget which Canon to Fuji X mount.
Okay, I'll check. K&F though. Okay.
Correct.
Sounds good. Yeah, I was a little nervous when you mentioned the Photo Diox. I've only had one, like I said, I couldn't get it to work well. And, they are doing stuff, and some of them, these are simple ones, but the electronic ones scare me even more because you don't know what the heck they're doing.
Jason Lanier, where it broke his camera, you mean, yeah.
Oh, that's right. He was talking about that. Yeah, that's not good. And his are like $3,000 Sonys.
Well, I'm sure he gets his cameras for free, so it's really no big worry for him.
Yeah, I don't know. Do they? I don't know. I don't know if Sony does that. I imagine they might.
I don't know. I'm only assuming that, you know.
Yeah.
I got a broken camera. Send me another one, which is fine.
Hey, by the way, I broke a lens. It's sheared off the camera on the GH, brand new GH5, brand new 12 to 60 millimeter lens, Panasonic. It's a good lens. Sheared off. When it sheared off, I'm looking at the lens. It sheared off the camera, so it was still connected. The mount was connected to the camera, but the lens was flying around the floor somewhere. And I went, holy crap! And then I pulled it off the camera, and I looked at a little bit of fish wire, 3 connectors, it went through 3 loops, and that's how they connected. That's it. That was the whole thing that connected that mount. And I was going, what? A $900 lens? $900, and you get one little piece of lousy fish wire.
That's what the G Master Sony did. I've actually seen the close-up pictures. There's only 3 really thin screws, and there are only 3 threads that were grasping inside the polycarbonate base posts of the lens, and that's a heavy piece of glass. I mean, anybody else that's actually holding their camera like this, which you really don't have to normally on anybody else's camera with a 24-72.8 instead of doing this number, people just don't. It's just not that heavy, and you shouldn't have to, but it sheared itself off.
Oh, it did?
Oh, yeah, it's a German guy. He's got a nice video posted with a lot of close-up images, and he's just as sincere as the day is long. He sent it in, and I said, nope, for free warranty work.
And it's funny. Guess what happened? You were talking about this the other day about not having parts. It's a brand new lens. I sent it to Panasonic. They charged me $400 to repair it. It's a $900 lens when you buy $950 when you buy it. $400 to repair it, and they couldn't get parts, so they just after about 2 months sent me a brand new one. And so I figured that was their cost, probably about 300, 200 and something. And I was going, man, that sucks. You can't even get replacement parts for this. Because really, it's just the mount. Nothing broke on the lens. But to replace the mount, you have to get a whole new lens assembly. So, meaning you have to get a brand new lens. There's no replacement parts. It's sort of odd. But the camera had fine. Bounced 3 times on the floor. Nothing happened to it. Not even a scratch. Nothing. It worked perfectly. I sent it in for repair, just for checkup, and they said no. The guy, United Electronics in Chicago, they were decent. The guy called me up, a guy named Peter. He was the tech, and he said, "I've gone through everything. I can't find any problems, but I'm concerned that you think there may be one." I said, "No, I'm not sure there is one. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't one, and that the IBIS didn't get messed up, because that's mechanical. It could have." And he went, "Nope, everything worked fine. We did all the IBIS tests. It was perfect." He sent it back. Works like a champ. So that was the end of my insurance on that camera. So
well, just don't throw your cameras around on the floor anymore, Rick.
No, I'll try not to do that. Yeah.
Everybody drops the camera now and then.
No, I didn't. My bag did.
He didn't drop it. He threw it.
I threw it. It came out of my bag, which had a side opening. It's one of those low pros, tactical low pro bag. It's a really nice bag. I had opened it to show somebody how you get in and quickly take a camera out. Left the camera out, went off, did something for an hour, came back, and I had turned the bag around, and I went, oh, I locked it again. So I opened the top, put it back in. The side was still open, didn't catch it. And then I was talking to my wife and son-in-law when they were in here, and I flipped the bag over my shoulder, and I see this black thing fly out. I'm like,
oh, my God.
And none of us could react. It went too fast. It flew about 5 feet through the air. He bounced 3 times like a bad landing and went, oh. That was not good, and the lens is over there, and the camera's over there, and I went, oh. That's the first time in my life I've actually dropped a camera, or a lens for that matter. It was pretty bad.
You never pack your cameras with your lenses mounted, like the guy that flew Delta recently. What did he pack on there? He had a 400 millimeter 2.8 or something, and we had the camera mounted, and of course the crunch.
Oh no! And I usually have my cameras with the lens mounted. I haven't had a problem. They have the kind of padding that you can make it so the lens is inside the padding. Everything's well protected, but that was a first. That was my first, and I carry other lenses, but I always carry one on it. May not do that anymore. Who knows? It's just the problem is if you don't, then that's one extra slot you don't have. That's my only concern. Of course, not having a camera is not good either.
No.
Yeah. That's good.
Ever since I bought the GFX, people have started treating me like I converted to Satanism or something. I've seen so many comments from so many people like, this is a typical comment I saw. Said, I stopped watching him when he bought that damn expensive GFX or something like, he doesn't, didn't need no donations. He bought a GFX. Or, I was every sort of insulting comment imaginable. I mean, I saved for 6 months for that. And then I sold off 3 cameras and 4 lenses. All of the cameras and lenses were redundant. And I get flack. Go, oh my God. Yeah, okay, whatever. You step off with you and your GF. Okay.
Well, my wife, she doesn't really watch your podcast, but I tell her all about it. And she goes, why do you send him money? He's rich. I go, no, I don't think he's rich. And she goes,
God, no.
Look at the cameras.
No.
He has 300 lenses, Rick. He's rich. I'm like, no. I mean, and she's funny because I think that's what everybody perceives, that you are rich. I said,
whether people donate or not, I'll be truthful with you. And if I'm lying, I'm going to die right now. I'm driving an old Toyota out here with bent the heck. I still got $500,000 of medical debt left for my dead wife. I mean, my air conditioner is held together with Scotch tape and bubble gum. I mean, no one has ever in 4,000 videos seen me make a video going, hi, this is, Ken from Ireland or Switzerland. I've never filmed in any exotic location. If I had the money, I guarantee you the first thing I'd be is in Sweden or Iceland or Switzerland making a, video. And no one's ever seen me make a video like that.
Well, that's what people don't understand. A lot of with people who enthusiasts and want cameras and lenses. Something else always has to give. You might have all the camera and lenses, but like you said, the air conditioners needs fixing, the car needs updating. But people who don't have all these lenses, they might drive the top of the range Lexus. They'll get in debt for that, but they don't have that. That's the differences. Everybody has their own priorities, and if you're really interested in something, you can usually save a bit and get what you want. But that's the thing. A lot of people in this industry that you'd think all these people, you see these. They've got these fantastic lenses, but they've all had to give up something to get them. They don't just have endless money, which we'd all love to have.
We have an area.
Well, this is the truth. I have no savings account, and right now there's $1,420 sitting in my checking account. And so I live really simply. I said, other than a pile of cameras and lenses, I mean, half of which the lenses are old lenses that I got broken or really, really cheap. So, I've been collecting them, I guess, whatever, but I'm not a lens collector, but oh well, maybe I am. But I mean, I live a simple life. I mean, I really do.
And I think if you're interested these days, if you talk to enough people, you can get a lot of people who have no interest in photography will give you a lot of old rubbishy lenses that they think are no good, which can be quite some decent finds these days.
Oh, those are my favorite. Dead people stuff on eBay. You find something that someone found in Grandpa's basement. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, they don't even have any value. They have no idea what the value is sometimes.
It's just okay.
I'm always scared to get rid of my rubbish because just in case I think it's rubbish and it's worth a lot. It just piles up.
Hey, I still curse at myself when I was, 15 years old, 14. I had #1 issues of a ton of comic books. I'd be rich today if I kept those. They would have been worth $1 million. I'm going, who thought? I gave them away to friends. Here, you can have them.
Hindsight.
Hindsight, yeah, 2020, perfect.
The only thing rubbish in my house is myself. Worthless, fat, bald, and ugly, and.
Ken. I was thinking the other day, who do you remind me of? And it came
Uncle
to me.
Fester.
Uncle Fester, yes.
Andrew Zimmern.
I love Andrew. Uncle Fester was great. That was he was my favorite character on the Addams Family.
I have a light bulb, but stick it in my mouth right now, right? Yeah. I was looking for a light bulb.
Jackie Coogan.
Jackie Coogan. Yep.
Jackie Coogan.
Yeah, I forgot who did. I forgot who did Uncle. Who was the Uncle Fester on the newer movie?
I don't know.
That was the guy from Back to the Future.
Oh, him. Oh, what's his name? Right, yeah. He was funny. I liked him in that.
Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd. Yep.
That's it. Yeah, I don't class it as real. You can't reproduce the Addams Family. I'm sorry.
No, and yet they were bad. It wasn't too bad. Raul Julia didn't do too bad a job as Gomez, but I just love that series. When I was growing up, that was like the series. The Munsters were cute, but not like the Addams Family. They were much more wicked.
I always wanted to have the most expensive train set and blow it up. That would have been fantastic. Like Gomez used to, his biggest pleasure was blowing up the train set, wasn't it? So.
That's
I love that show.
Well, Ken, we are, let's see, we're about an hour into it, so I guess we should probably let you get back on with your life.
What life?
What life? You're talking to two guys who have no life, so we know what that's like.
Well, Ken, I'll tell you now, I'm starting up a list of Ken Wheeler sayings. I'm going to get them because when you're just opening that lens, there was just one that came out of there. I just thought, I've got to write that down. So I'm going to have a list of Ken Wheeler sayings because they really amuse me. So I thought I've never heard that before, but it's just so good. So
Tougher than woodpecker lips, right?
Well, the South has the best sayings on earth. I remember I knew a guy from IBM. He worked in the Georgia office, and he would always say, "Oh man, Rick, I am busier than a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest." I just love that line, and he had 30 of those, and they just would come out all the time, and they were just. I love that about the South. It's just great senses of humor. I was on a show yesterday. We were talking to somebody who's in Houston right now, and I said, one of the times I was working with Frito-Lay, we had one of the VPs who we worked for said, there's good Yankees and there's damn Yankees. And I said, well, what's a good Yankee? He goes, you're a good Yankee. Why? You're leaving tomorrow. Got it. So, yeah, I love the area, though. Next time we're down in Cincinnati, I want to see if we drive down to where you are and see, because we were down there in May, but we didn't make it down to where you were. We didn't have time on that trip, but...
We could go to Shaker Village. We could go out to my piece of land or do whatever. I mean, Shaker Village is wonderful. Tons of famous photographers love it to go there. It's beautiful.
Oh, great. Oh, definitely. We'll have some fun. Pizza's on me.
Just what the fat guy needs.
Oh, man, I love pizza. It's
Me
not
too.
good. It's not good, but it's good. It's not good. It's great. That's what it is. Anyway, Ken, thanks for coming on again. We appreciate it. And
thank you.
Good luck. I watch your show every night. I think Jeff pretty much does too. Sometimes I'll miss a night or two, and
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, no. Half the time it's like when I come back, or one time I missed a week, and I went, "Oh man, I can't do this." He's got like 40 shows in a week.
That's what I said. If you miss a couple of days, it just takes you too long to catch up.
I got to catch up. So I've learned. I
still don't think I'm ever caught up.
I've learned to go quick on some of the shows where you talk about maybe something like a lens I don't care about. I'll go fast, but other than that, I'm usually. And I got to admit, I love, as somebody who went through chemical engineering a long time ago, didn't graduate with that, but always had an interest in science. I didn't know anything about Tesla when I was in my teens. And since I've been reading more and more about him, and actually what stuff you've been talking about with light and everything, it's like, wow. It's like...
Field theory is fascinating.
It is, and it's totally changed my...
The thing you need to do upset someone in physics or science that's full of themselves is light slows down by about 34% through glass, depending on the glass. And just ask a physicist or scientist that without breaking the law of the conservation of energy, how does light speed back up again, quote unquote, as it leaves glass, and just watch them just go
It's pretty fascinating. Yeah, but I've learned a ton from you on that stuff, and it's really fun changing things you've always thought. Because what you're saying makes total sense to me. It actually makes a lot more sense than what they taught in school. A lot more sense.
It didn't make any sense. It's a cult of bumping particles. That's
true, and that didn't make sense really. And if you start reading, I started reading more about string theory and stuff. And I think it's some of the biggest BS I've ever read in my life. It's just it's just made up. Virtual particles that don't exist. Oh, come on. That's straight out of virtual.
They use that to explain every form of fields. And science, no branch of science has ever defined a field in itself by itself.
No. I like what Tesla called. What did Tesla call Einstein? A funny little guy with funny hair?
Fuzzy-haired crackpot.
Fuzzy-haired crackpot. Tesla was pretty amazing. And, of course, being amazing, look how we ended.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
go government.
Miserable.
Yeah, go our government. Yeah. I love what they do, and that was a long time ago. Imagine today.
Poor guy.
Yeah, amazing. But he was amazing. He really was. Anyway, hey, Elon Musk came out the other day. He's the Tesla guy, Tesla cars. He said something that actually amazed me, because he actually said, I'm afraid of AI and where it's going and what it could mean. He said, this is not good. We shouldn't go there. This, for humanity, is bad. And that was actually interesting, coming from a guy who's basically a globalist. That was like, interesting.
Everybody has a cell phone's walking around with a personal tracking device, obviously.
Oh, not only that, these things are probably, based on what they're finding more and more, are causing lots of DNA distortions. Burning the DNA in the brain.
Oh, yeah, more, absolutely.
No,
typically, at 1 gigahertz, the same wavelength as brain cells.
Yeah, is it figures? Yeah. So
you're just going to have a mobile phone walking around in the future carrying a human.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what it'll be.
Oh gosh. Anyway, Ken, hey, appreciate it again. We'll see you soon, and you have a good rest of the week. Have a good weekend.
No, thank you. It was
Jeff,
good talking to you.
We'll see you next time.
Right, thanks.
Bye-bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Yeah, if I do an outro, right?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, new one.
Except it's not working.
Tech down over, not tech down under.
Yeah, that's the wrong one.
That was tech down, and I can't sing that.
I don't even know why it's singing
Okay, that's a good opening. We'll have the opening as a closing.
So what I'll do is I'll do it manually. Yay! We have backup. So that's the end of recording. Thanks, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.